What's up, TIW Mafia? JP here with Big Joe.
What's happening?
And we have with us over the phone Bigger Joe.
Yeah?
Local MMA legend, I'd say. Like one of the biggest MMA promoters in Boston and Massachusetts anyway.
I'd even say even like southeastern New England.
Yeah, Joey Cavallero. And Joe, first of all, like I was explaining to Joe how long me and you, like you found me through one of the wrestling company's MySpace pages years ago.
Way back, MySpace.
Man.
That's funny.
And I've gotten to do some security for you, and I've gotten to meet some pretty cool people from being at your show, so...
Yeah, we've been lucky. We've had some really cool people come through.
Definitely.
That's one of the things I try to do is bring somebody in that everybody's going to get a kick out of seeing.
Yeah, there was one time there was that team that wears green that is doing their thing right now, and I won't say who because we get some people in trouble because they may or may not have been out after curfew.
Yeah, that's funny. I wanted to have them introduced in the ring, and they were like, no, definitely not.
No, I remember Steve Mays came up to me and he said, grab two other security guys and you guys got to stand here. I'm talking about a team that wears shamrocks and stuff, but I don't want to say because I don't want them to get flagged down now.
Yeah. Similar to us with the Irish going on.
And we had to stand behind them so nobody could take pictures of them after a certain point. Yeah. But that's the other thing is like I've met guys like Steve Mays through you who I've become like good friends with over the years. And
Steve is a great guy.
Yeah, he'll be. I know you got a show coming up.
Mine's June 17th, and Joey Lozone, who he trains, is fighting the next night in.
Is that so, Steve?
I think it might be in Texas or someplace through the UFC.
Oh, okay.
Cowboy Cerrone, which would be a great fight.
Is that the makeup for that? I'm looking forward to that one.
I think Cowboy Cerrone got sick.
Yeah.
The weigh-ins last time, and they had to back out, so they rescheduled for this.
That fight should have been in Boston.
They're both at the end of their careers as far as longevity. But you don't want to see either one of them take more damage than they need, but they're both blood and guts fighters.
Right, and it's two guys that don't say no to anything.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a really fun fight.
No.
They're both two of my favorite fighters to watch.
Yes.
They're the fighters' favorites,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Marcus Davis used to be back in the day.
Well,
guys that
yes, I mean, Marcus Davis, Joey Lozone, Kenny Florian. These are all UFC legends, and another thing they all have in common is that the World Championship fighting has been rebranded as CombatFC, correct?
Yeah, so we had a trademark issue.
Okay.
The brand was trademarked, and we had no problem with that, but somebody else was using it. And they were using a name very, very similar. It was called World Championship Fighting. This guy that has a company he calls it World Fighting Championship, which is obviously the same thing.
Right.
And we, I sent an email to the trademark people and said, hey, I trademarked this thing in 2008. What's going on? And they said, let's look into it. And then they got back to me and they said, yeah, it's definitely 100% our fault. You definitely own the trademark. And I said, okay, well, if you guys could fix it, it'd be great. I paid you and everything. It'd be nice if you fixed it. They said, no, you got to sue the guy. And I'm like, I'm not suing anybody.
Right.
And I was just doing the deal for Fight Pass with the UFC, and I didn't have time to get the big argument about it. I said, you know what? Maybe it's good for a change to rebrand and kind of come out of the gate. The tough part is we've had so many good fights under the World Championship Fighting name.
Right.
We didn't spend a ton of money on TV production back then. So we have the tapes fight. The fight's taped, and I got John Jones's last fight before he went to the UFC.
Yes.
He fought Parker Porter, who's the UFC heavyweight. He's on a 4-fight winning streak.
That's
so. We had some really top talent come through. That Calvin Cady used to fight for us. He's number 4
right.
in the world. One of the top prospects in the country right now.
Yep.
One of the top prospects in the world, really. He's a freak.
Right.
And he fought for us at the Shriners in Wilmington. And we've had an opportunity to get some really, really high-level guys come through there and make it onto the UFC afterwards. And there's a whole handful of them that have done it over the years.
You've even had guys like Danny Lozone you've had sort of after his UFC career,
Yeah, well, Danny went back. He fought.
Yes.
He was the youngest guy to ever fight in the UFC. Then he came and he fought for us. I think he fought for us 6 or 7 times.
Well, he went back.
Probably even more than that.
Him going back was sort of a result of your show, if I remember right.
Yeah, he got some good exposure. And,
because that was
he beat Bobby Green. Danny was a tough guy.
Yeah.
You know, they refer to him as the upgrade, and you know, he's a nod to his brother. You know, he really had everything going for him. And he just had a baby, so he's doing really well. He's a funny dude. He's had a little baby. He calls him Duke. He's the cutest little kid you ever seen. You can tell he's a little tough guy. Just looking at him, you know.
I was always a fan of those two, and then like being able to meet them at your shows, it was like that was crazy to me because like I was a fan of them, literally a fan, you know, and guys like Kenny Florian and like you said, Marcus Davis, like genuine UFC legends.
Yep.
Now.
I had a management business back then, and I was managing all those guys. So it was cool. You know, they'd come to the fights, and
yeah, I mean,
you know, but the other thing I really try to do is bring somebody in special for every event. You know, somebody that everybody's going to get a kick out of. I remember we had Butterbean come in, which was a huge fan favorite. Everybody loves seeing him. He's a legend.
Right. I was just saying that, and that's like so many, like even Dana White.
You know, Dana came out in 2008.
You had Dana.
Nobody even knew what the UFC was, and he was so popular back then that we sold the place out.
Right.
Just on his name. I mean, if we bring him out to one of these events, and that's what I'm working on, is trying to get him out to one of the next couple of events that we do.
That's,
you know, we've sold that venue out in days. You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
It's a
4,000 seat venue.
The funny thing was,
that's a lot of people.
On top of the action.
Like me and Joe, we went to Encore for fights. I don't even remember the company name a couple months ago.
Yep.
And that was it was a nice place because it was like small. It was, you know, almost like some of the wrestling shows that I've set up.
The problem with that for me, as far as the venue went, is they sold standing room before they sold out the seats.
Yeah.
You know?
They were priced real high.
Yeah.
I think that building would be a great place to have fights. Excuse me, not the boxing commission, the gaming commission, I believe, has a rule that they can't go over 1,000 people in there.
Is that?
About 2,500. Ken Casey, who's the guy from the Dropkick Murphys, that's also a boxing promoter. He does really good boxing events. Super nice guy, and he did 2 events in there with about 2,500 people in each, and they were booming. The place was, you know, electric. It was on fire in there. But these last guys that went in there, I heard that the venue actually cut them back to 1,000 seats. It's very, very difficult in this business to make money at 1,000 seats.
Right, especially where, you know, it was one thing before Massachusetts was a commission state. You know, as you know, like that adds a huge. And I think having the commission's great, but it adds a huge expense on.
Well, especially with the venue like them, a venue like Encore where you don't own the bar.
Right.
No, with the casino, you know, that's why they want it there. They have no interest in mixed martial arts.
Right.
You know, they just want 18 to 54-year-old men to come into their building. And you guarantee that if you bring in 2,500 18 to 54-year-old men on a Thursday night, they're ecstatic. You know what I mean? They get all the food, all the booze, all the gambling, all the hotels, all the, you know, all the everything. They make a fortune on something like that. It's just a really good deal for them.
Now, the Wilmington Shrine is the Aleppo Shrine is. That's sort of a legendary building as far as combat sports go between pro wrestling and mixed martial arts over the years. And you've been.
King did an event in there years ago. He had Johnny Ruiz fight in there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was how I had heard about it. You know, I was looking for venues and I wanted something big enough. You know, I was looking around the area and you want something big enough that you can kind of.
And that place used to.
Sense. If you go to the big places, you know, the Boston Garden, you can't do it. It's too cost prohibitive. You know, with the unions in there and the price that they charge for rent.
Right.
A buddy of mine that does a show, he just did one in Virginia the other night, last Friday night, and the venue, he's there that day, everything's done, the contracts are all done, obviously the fighters are all there, everybody's ready to go, and the building said to him, you need internet? And he's like, yeah, of course I need internet, it's 2022. Yeah, of course we need internet.
Right.
And the guy said to him, it's $17,000 for the night.
What?
$17,000, he told him. And he's got his fight going on. He's live on TV. He had to do it. So we don't run into that stuff at the Shriners.
Those guys, yeah. And you know what's cool is the Shriners always loved watching the fights.
Yeah,
you know.
Get a kick out of it.
So, but it's like what's in store? What do we?
For the next event?
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. We're gonna, fights are gonna be unbelievable. It's Friday night, June 17th, which is not this Friday, but the following Friday. We have, I think, I'd have to check with my matchmaker, Rick Caldwell and Christine Curtis, the two matchmakers that we use. I think they have 14 or 15 fights booked right now.
Wow.
Usually what happens is you lose one or two before the event.
Right. And especially now
which we've never done before. I don't think we've ever done before. We have you're going to see some really top level guys that are breaking into the sport. I think the kid's name is Fabio Orlando. He's a 3-time Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. And he came in and, he said he wanted to get a fight. He said, I'll fight pro if I have to. I'll fight amateur if I have to. He goes, I can't get anybody to fight me. He trains out of Sigaton.
Oh, okay.
He's like a celebrity over in Brazil. He's got like 50,000 people following him on Instagram. He did one of those reality type shows, is the way I understand it. I haven't actually talked to him, but he's on my list of guys to get some interviews for with the Brazilian Times and that kind of stuff, because there's a big community out there, especially with the BJJ guys. They love it. And this kid's so good. He's so high level. So we're trying to get him fights. We're asking everybody, we'll fight pros, we'll fight amateurs, he'll fight guys with winning records, he'll fight, he wants to fight. And then finally Rick found a guy that just stepped up and said, yeah, the guy's 4-1, and the guy's like, yeah, I'll fight him, I don't care.
That's cool.
So they're going to fight amateur, which is good, because regardless of whether he wins or loses, he still gets, he gets the fight, he gets the experience. He's not going to get hurt. I mean, if he gets in a submission, he can't get out of it. He'll tap out.
Right.
And that's it. The problem is, we're finding this out as we go. The fighters nowadays don't look at fighting the way they did 10 years ago.
No. Is that how long ago you started?
Yeah. Well, we started actually in 2007. We did the last event 10 years ago.
Was that long since the last event?
Most of the time, but it's a completely different market.
Yeah.
We who Steve Stengel is?
Yes.
So Steve's the best. I love him. Steve's been with us since day one. Fought for us a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Kind of got an upside-down record, but he's tough as hell, and he'll fight anybody. And Rick, who was talking to him, Rick, our matchmaker, one of our matchmakers, says, he talked to Steve, and he's like, Steve, what do you want to fight at? What weight are you looking at? And Steve says to him, I'll fight anywhere from 205 pounds to 170 pounds. That's 3 weight divisions.
Right. Yeah.
And then Rick says to him, well, that's crazy. You wouldn't, pick a where you be the most comfortable. So they came up with whatever they came up with. I think he said, 185, I think. But, and then he says to him, well, who would you like to fight? Is there anybody out there that you'd like to fight? And he goes, I'll fight anybody. You know that. So it's just, that's his, the mentality. And he's a dog of a man. He will fight absolutely anybody in any weight class within 3 weight divisions.
And you actually, so you always ran a boxing ring style, which as a fan watching in the live event, I loved, because there's no obstruction.
Yeah, people are going to be in for a rude awakening when I bring this cage.
You got the cage, here's the thing, though, is you're on UFC Fight Pass.
Yep.
And the cage is great for television.
Yeah, it works out well.
So,
it really works out well.
I think
it'll actually be nice in that we have big screens that we're looking at. So if the action gets on the ground and there's a spot that you can't see, you can actually look up to the screen and see it on the screen.
Awesome.
And see the replays and all that stuff. So.
Awesome. And what I think is cool is, like you said, you started back in 2007. Who was your matchmaker in 2007?
Rick Caldwell.
And who's your matchmaker now in 2022?
Rick Caldwell. Yeah.
Like, that just shows how...
And Christine Curtis. Christine runs a show called Ammo up in Western Mass.
Okay.
A bunch of shows have been real successful.
Yeah, she runs like that's like the Big E they run on the fairgrounds, right? Yes.
Yep.
I've never been out there for the fights, but I've heard of them.
I went out and watched one of the shows. It was nice.
So, yeah, that's awesome.
She knows all the young people. She knows all the guys that are up and coming. And Rick kind of knew all the old trainers and all the guys that used to fight for us now are in their 40s. You know,
right.
The girls that used to be our ring card girls were 22 when they started. They're 34 and 35 now.
Jeez, and yeah, and that's
it's crazy. It's just, the time went by in a blink of an eye.
Right, and that's when you just said it's been 10 years since your last show.
Rick and Christine, they know everybody. They know who's who. They know, which is going to make the best fight. So the two of them just got together and say, what are we going to do with this fight? What are we going to do with this one? Does this make sense? Does that make sense?
Right.
And then, the other side of it is talking to the coaches and saying, hey, what's your guy good at? We obviously don't want to put a wrestler in with a guy that, has no wrestling background and just going to get taken down and laid on. Nobody wants to see that.
No, you want to have some excitement.
Those are the worst fights in the world.
I never thought of the science behind booking a fight.
Right.
Until right now, when you just said that, I never thought of the science behind booking a fight.
There's a ton to it. These guys are great at what they do. The two of them are real good at what they do.
I mean, me and Joe, we both grew up.
Stinking fights, you might get guys with really good records, and they come in and they just think the show up. And then you put a guy in there with a lopsided record like Steve Stengel, and Steve's going to bring it every single time he comes. Life or death fight. You're in a war. This kid fights. He just fought Marcus Davis.
Oh wow.
It's crazy.
Really, Marcus had a fight recently.
They fought out in Western Mass.
Wow.
I think last November.
Were the hand grenades still the hand grenades?
I'm sorry?
Were the hand grenades still the hand grenades?
Oh yeah, Marcus has still got it. 48 years old. He's still got it. He's another guy. He's just a monster. He's been fighting professionally since he was 17.
You talked about.
They asked me. He said a while back. He's like, "I'd like to fight one more time. I like to do it on your show." And I said, "Why don't you do a grappling match on our show? Come in and And he was all set to do it. We had him lined up with a guy to do a super fight grappling. But Marcus had neck surgery, and he obviously can't do it after that.
Right.
He may be able to in the future, but he definitely can't.
It's funny.
Do it after the surgery, so.
Right.
But if there's a mistake, you just edit it out in the editing thing.
Right. You filmed it with like a.
If something goes wrong, we're in trouble. And we brought in the best guys. I brought in Sean Wheelock. I don't know if you know Sean. He does bare knuckle fighting.
Okay.
He's the commentator for that. He does it with Chris Lytle.
Yeah. Oh
in my
wow.
personal opinion, he's one of the best guys in commentary. Period.
Sure.
And he's definitely the best guy outside of the UFC, without a doubt.
Right.
The top guy outside the UFC. I mean, when I told the UFC that we got the opportunity to work with him, they were like, "How did you get him?" I mean, he's unbelievable.
What's up, DIW Mafia? JP here. One of the things that we want to try to help you guys out with is obviously staying healthy, so you can keep listening to us for a long time. One of the things that you can do if you want to get your health back on track, or you just want to keep your health on track, is Athletic Greens. And they're our new partner. This is something you're going to hear us talk about hopefully for a long time, and hopefully we keep this partnership going. I started taking AG1 because obviously my weight's up. COVID did a number on me like the rest of us, and I'm going to use this to try to help get my weight down and just get my health back on track. And it's lifestyle friendly, so whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, it works with you. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, and still tastes okay. It still tastes good. Supports better sleep quality and recovery. Supports mental clarity and alertness, which obviously is something me and Joe take pretty serious, along with the Real Yeti. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best of the best. Products based on the latest science, with constant product iterations and third-party testing. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. AG1 is a small micro-habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. Your subscription comes with a year supply of vitamin D, which is so important to add in with these winter months that are ending right now, when we don't get as much sunlight. So it will work in the summer as well, guys, I promise you. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/emerging. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the Ultimate Daily Nutrition Insurance.
We got really lucky that he's going to come in and do this with us. And then I brought in Randy Costa, who's out of Lazone's MMA and Sanford MMA down in Florida. And Randy's a Boston guy, but very, very articulate, real handsome kid, and he knows a shit ton about the fights. And he can speak. He's got a real good way about him. He's funny. So I think between the two of those guys, on TV, they'll carry that fight. They'll carry the whole night. And it's going to be exciting. What happens is if you get the wrong commentators, they can make great fights seem boring.
Right.
You see a lot of it on TV. I'm like, man, this guy is terrible.
And the great ones make the boring fights seem better.
Right.
Yeah. The thing the UFC does better than anybody is they tell a story. They give you a story about the fighters. Every weekend they have a fight. And every weekend I'm like, this is going to be the best fight card I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is just going to be incredible because they tell the story about it and they get you so emotionally invested in it. And that's what Sean Wheelock does better than anybody. Is he tells a story. He actually asked me to send him the fight card 2 weeks ago because he wanted to study tape 2 weeks ago. He's going to be looking into the guys and doing background, and then the night of the weigh-ins, he actually brings all the guys in and interviews them and goes through, what's your thing? Not only do they get filmed for TV and they get a chance to talk to the camera and tell you a little bit about who they are and what they're doing, but he actually interviews them and talks to them about their family and about this and about that. We got one guy that's fighting on the kind of, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, and I should, but this is where Rick and Christine really come in. But he's got a great story. He's a guy that fought, and in one of his fights, he got his jaw broken, which is obviously not a pleasant thing, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. He went in and had an MRI or a CAT scan done on his chin, and they found out that he had some kind of rare cancer.
Oh, wow.
Was very, very aggressive. And they had to cut a piece of his jaw out and do all kinds of treatment on him and stuff. And he calls himself the cutthroat assassin. So he's got a scar from the bottom of his, one side of his ear all the way through his throat. And where they had to cut him open to do the thing. But it's such a good story. And he trains out of American Kickboxing Academy, which is where Khabib Nurmagomedov is out of.
Right.
And Daniel Cormier is one of the coaches there. To talk about two of the biggest guys in the sport. He's in there training with them every day. And this kid's a monster. He's fighting Tim Karen, who's a guy out of that fought in Bellator forever. I think he had a 5-2 record in Bellator. He's just a super tough kid. Really good jiu-jitsu, and he's out of New Hampshire.
Okay.
He's got a gym called Tim Karen's MMA, and that's going to be a fun fight. That's going to be something to watch, But it's getting back to that telling the story. You got to
right.
These guys set it up, and now you have a vested interest in what's going to happen. It's not just a fight. It's you listen to the story about it, and then you make a decision in your head. This is the guy I want to see win. Knowing nothing about him, just the couple of minutes they give you the background, and just everybody always picks a side, and that's your guy, and then you watch the fight.
I can't wait to root for. I can't wait to be there rooting for the cutthroat assassin now.
Yeah, I mean, if he can overcome cancer, I'll vote.
Don't take care of that. But,
no, but
it makes it interesting. It just really makes it interesting. And that's what Wheelock and those guys really do. The guys that are good commentators, the guys like Joe Rogan and Joe Cormier and those guys, they tell a story. They get you emotionally involved with what's going on. And then you care about what's going to happen in the fight, which makes it that much more exciting.
Now, the sport in general, over the past 10 years, there's been a couple of... in my mind, there's been two sort of major changes to the sport. The first one that happened, I think, was, and I want to get your opinion on this, is the female fighters.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How do you feel? Because personally, I love it. I think some of those girls, wrestling's been doing pro wrestling has been doing it for years, and obviously pro wrestling is different in that the ending is predetermined, and it's a performance art.
That's evolved over the years too, where you were just a face, now you're an actual worker.
They do mixed matches, so male versus female, which I am not a fan of. Yeah, in pro wrestling. Obviously not in MMA. I'm not a fan of that because I have my own feelings on that type of thing,
Yep.
How do you feel about the women fighting?
I love it. I love it. You know, it's funny. Years and years and years ago, before any of these women that you've heard of started, there was a girl named Shelby Walker. They called her Shelby Girl. And,
yeah.
She was tremendous. She actually fought in Boston. She used to date Dennis Cagg.
Okay.
She was a professional boxer. She was beautiful, and she could fight. And, you know, that was all the stuff that you needed. And she just was before her time. And then you see girls like Gina Carano and,
right.
and Cyborg, and, you know, the girls that paved the way for this stuff. And, you know, obviously Ronda Rousey, when she hit, it just took off. It was, it was a whole other league. Now you got girls like Rose Namajunas and the girls, Wei Li.
They're almost... Yes. Oh, man, what's her name? Amazing.
Yeah, and it's tremendous. I mean, those fights are better than some of the guy fights.
Right, and that I was...
It's nothing but fun.
I was just going to say that.
From a promoter standpoint, there's not a deep enough pool.
Right.
Like, there's some girls that I really would like to get on the next card that are local. But if you book a woman's fight and a fight backs out last second, it's very, very difficult to get somebody else to step into that role because there's just not enough women at that level.
Yeah.
That fight. It becomes difficult. You know, if a 155 guy drops out, you know, I make 5 phone calls, and it's the 155 guy. You know, you got to fly him in and do his medicals and all that stuff. But you know, we'll get somebody. If a 115 girl drops out 2 weeks before the fight or a week before the fight, it just becomes very difficult to get somebody that's evenly matched. You know, you might be able to get somebody that might get more fights or less fights, and you obviously will want to match evenly matched fights. So
yeah, and that's the thing is, like, you've always put on. You've wanted all your fights to sort of be a spectacle, to be a tough fought fight, and it's worked. It's been. I've seen some great fights there.
Yeah, it's been crazy. We've had some beautiful, beautiful fights over the years.
And I always laugh because one of my buddies fought on 2 of your shows, I think, Steve Beck. And Steve just didn't have the commitment to the trainer that he needed to have. And I tried to tell him that before he went in there.
Yeah.
And I tried to tell him, once you go pro, you can't go back.
Yep.
And he didn't listen. And he went out there and he got killed. And Steve was a pro wrestler. And I would go to his pro wrestling shows because I would have been setting the ring up and I would heckle him. Because he lost both matches to a rear naked choke. So I'd be yelling, put him in a rear naked choke. He can't get out of that. And he'd usually start laughing in the ring.
Yeah.
Because
I remember Steve. I don't even remember whether he won or lost, but I remember him.
Yeah, he was he lost both. He might have lost 3.
He had a 50-50 chance, you know. That's
exactly. Listen, you catch that right punch, you catch that,
It's either in any fight sport, gone are the days of the Mike Tyson 15-second knockouts.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's, Tyson was something special. I mean, he was just a freak,
Yeah.
He was so dominant for so long. It was crazy. But it's funny, when he fought Holyfield, I went out to that fight, and to the first one, and I bet Holyfield, and everybody laughed at me. And I said, he's going to back him up, and he's going to stop him. And everybody's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about boxing. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But he just stylistically was tailor-made for him.
Right.
And it was such a good fight. I've been blessed to be... I've gone to some of the craziest fights ever. I saw all of Chuck Liddell's fights. Not all of them, but a ton of them. I used to go see De La Hoya all the time. I was a big Holyfield fan. Vinny Pazienza, who I love. I used to go to all his fights when he was fighting.
I mean, you had
I fought with him everywhere, but I fought in New England for years. Mickey Ward.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to see some of the best fighters and the best fights. We used to go to De La Hoya, all his fights. And
you had to go to some Mayweather stuff, too, because I know he's all tight in that group.
Yep. Yeah, it's all, the fight, there's nothing like it. I tell people all the time, if you're listening and you've never been to a fight live, if you've never seen a fight live in person, you've never seen a fight. It's completely different when you're live.
The only boxing matches I've been to?
You can love it, and you can say, this is the best thing I've ever seen, but when you're sitting cage side and they're actually fighting, it's so electric, and it's such a... It's a completely different thing. The great thing about our event is it's safe. It's all ages.
Yes.
It's safe. There's no problems. There's a guy that used to be the chief of police down in Mansfield, Mass. And Mansfield had a Holiday Inn down there that we were talking about doing a fight at. And I went to the chief of police and I asked him, this is years and years and years ago, and I said to him, what do you guys think about us doing a fight? And he said, Great Woods is down there. Remember Great Woods?
Yes.
The Tweeter Center or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they call it now.
Still Great Woods to me, man.
Same here.
Yeah, it's still Great Woods to me, too. But it's they have that place down there. And the chief of police said to me, he goes, we have more problems at Sydney Lauper concerts than we do with MMA.
That's...
It's a safe environment. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's not what people think. It's not everybody getting drunk and going crazy. People are there's beer there you can drink, but
it's an event.
Doing anything stupid. It's
no.
a safe event. It's actually.
I think I've done security. I've done security at least 90% of your shows for you.
Yep.
And I might have missed one or two. I don't think so though. But there's never ever. And I was the one, because of my size, that people would go get. Yep. There's never been a serious incident.
No. People sit in the wrong seat.
Right.
That's about it. Like I told everybody when we did it, we're not here to police the place. We actually have police there.
Yeah.
If there's an issue with somebody, they're doing something wrong, and they won't get out of their seat and move for somebody else.
Yeah.
It's like it's become an event. It's not just like, hey, we're going to watch these fights. It's like we want to make sure we get there and see this fight, and then hit the merch table, and see this fight, and then it's all planned out. Even like the biggest, or what they were called back in the day, these just muscleheads going in and fighting, throwing punches. I've never seen that happen. And I started watching, when I was in the Navy back in the 90s with the Gracies fighting.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing that, and luckily for me, I was out in Hawaii where they were based, and I saw a couple of their fights live. And
awesome.
Gone is the stigma of just the.
Well, they had marketed it as a blood sport,
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the only way they could get traction, right? They said, hey, this is a blood sport. 2 men enter, 1 man leave, and all that stuff. And it did wonders for the pay-per-views. They were doing 300,000-400,000 pay-per-views when 300,000 or 400,000 pay-per-views was an insane amount.
But now...
And people were watching it. I used to wait for it to come out on VCR tapes, and I used to watch all the VCR tapes from Japan and all that stuff.
Yep.
But they were doing numbers before, but that's kind of bit them in the ass in the end, right? So
right. And I think that was one of the major changes, like you brought up when Dana White bought the UFC. I think that was one of the major changes he made is he turned it into MMA fights into just pure mixed martial arts.
Yep.
Like you couldn't go in.
Tremendous job. Back in the day, I remember, they call places and say, "Hey, we're calling from the UFC," and people would hang up on them.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What is it you guys do? We'd say, fight to the cage, elbows, knees, chokes.
Yeah.
We'd say, no, really, who told you to call me?
So,
I had a buddy of mine that worked for Anheuser-Busch, and he's a big wig with Anheuser-Busch. He was with for 30 years, so I used to call him all the time and ask him whether he would, get involved with the events. That's with Dana's event. I'd say, hey, check it out. Come see one with me. He's one of my best buddies. So he said, Joe, I will never go see one with you. I don't want any part of it. I don't want Anheuser-Busch, Budweiser is never going to be involved with that, ever. You're insane. And Tony Pontoro is the guy that was in charge of Budweiser's sponsorships. You got to think about it. He's probably the most influential man in all of sports because he holds the purse strings for all the sponsorships, for all the events.
Yeah.
Boxing, everything you can name, the football, every single thing that you can name is sponsored by them. So he's one of the most powerful guys in all of sports. And I got a picture of him. I took a picture of him on stage right before they made the announcement. I happened to be standing on the side of the stage, and I flew out for the announcement. And I took a picture of him and Dana standing on the stage together, and I sent it to my buddy. And he goes, what the hell? He texted me back immediately. What the hell is that? I said, turn on your thing. Turn on your TV. They're making an announcement right now. And he said, I never thought in 1,000 years that Anheuser-Busch ever be part of it.
That's pretty incredible. But that's how it was. I mean, like you had guys that came down and their fights, their fight style was bar brawl. If a guy came in now to one of your events, and his fight style was bar brawling, and he stepped in the ring with any one of these guys, he wouldn't last 10 seconds.
Nope.
Yeah, it's a whole different game now.
Right.
The kids that are fighting today are mixed martial artists. There's
Yes.
not a style. You don't get a guy that's, we
Right.
happen to have that one kid that I talked about that's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, 3-time world champ. But I've been watching him train and, just the video clips that they're putting out.
Yeah.
He's got decent hands. He's got pretty good sprawl. He looks like he's going to be an all-around guy.
I mean,
he's just, he's got to work on it, but it's not like it used to be where you got at it was just jiu-jitsu.
right.
When Royce Gracie first started, he would throw a couple of pump kicks at you and then shoot in for your legs and take you down and submit you. There'd be no fighting. He didn't do any, no punching or anything.
Hands were for blocking.
Now, I heard a rumor of someone that was potentially going to be at this fight that couldn't make it.
I'm sorry?
I heard a rumor of someone that was potentially going to be at your next fight but couldn't make it, but maybe at another one down the line?
Yeah, we had Frank Shamrock supposed to come in, and he had something come up. Jason DeLucia's got a couple of guys fighting on the card. Jason DeLucia was the guy that fought in the first UFC, so
Yes.
he's friends with Frank. And I said, obviously, if you invite him, we'd love to have him, And he was planning on coming in, and then last second he had to back out. So we'll get him back. We use Jason's guys. Jason's got a real tough gym, and his guys are really good. So he's got 2 guys on the card that we're really excited about seeing.
And this is June, just so everyone's clear, this is June 19th at the Wilmington Shrine.
June 17th.
June 17th, sorry,
yeah,
at the Wilmington Shrine.
And, tickets are available at CombatFC.com.
Yeah, go there.
I'm sorry, CombatFC.tv.
Go to CombatFC.tv and you get all of this information, guys. You'll be able to see, I'm assuming the card is up there. I haven't looked. Or at least parts of what's known.
If it isn't, it's on Facebook.
Yes, so.
Which is CombatFC.tv and CombatFC.tv on TikTok and CombatFC.tv on Instagram.
Because our reach is pretty much worldwide. I know you're on, you get the UFC Fight Pass and people just sign up for that.
Yeah, you can watch it on UFC Fight Pass. If you can't make it, you're listening from someplace far away, you can definitely watch it on UFC Fight Pass.
Did you ever think?
They give you a week for free if you sign up. And the fights start at 9. The main card starts at 9, which will be on Fight Pass. And I think there's 8 fights. So.
Did you ever think you'd be saying that, like when you started this?
That's what I hoped I would be saying. That was the goal of day one, was to try to do something with the UFC, and now to be able to do it. One of the things that I talked to them about, the guy that runs Fight Pass, they run it as a completely different business, but Dana's obviously the big boss.
Right.
They have guys that run it, but they run it as a its own standalone business. It's very, very successful. And I was talking to him, and I said to him, what exactly you guys see as success for us? Like, what makes me a successful Fight Pass partner? And they said, we want more subscriptions, we want more people subscribing to the channel and watching, and we want more homegrown talent to be grown up through your organization and then go on to the UFC.
Well,
I said, well, we can do that.
Yeah,
we've done that before. We continue to do it. There's some really good guys in Cleveland. They got this kid John Chanis that's right on the verge of getting to the UFC.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like in Boston alone, as far as trainers for this type of thing, granted he's mostly boxing, but you got Peter Welch. You go down, you go up to Somerville, you got City Odong, which, I mean, come on, like, is that not the top school in the country at this point? Like, is that arguable?
It's one of the top gyms in the country. Mark O'Brien is one. And his team, they're some of the top trainers in the country.
So. And, you look at you know a lot of the guys that go to Peter's gym when they're in town. So, I mean, you named some of them already.
Yep.
And so, I mean, how do you not going to have people come up and go through the system from here? Yep. Especially with Dana's background is here,
Oh, yeah. We got a guy fighting out of Tiger Showman's gym. Shane Burgos, Hurricane Shane Burgos is going to come up a corner of him. He's superstar. He's like another guy. He's legitimately a fighter's. He's their favorite fighter. He's just such a tough kid and just really sharp boxer. Really, really fun to watch. I'm excited to meet him. I've never met him before. He's got a guy that corner in the Tiger Showman, one of the best gyms in the country. Again.
Right.
The guy's American Kickboxing Academy. Sid Young-Tong.
Yeah. Lozon's gym with
Jason DeLucia's gym. Tim Karen's MMA.
There's so many.
We got literally some of the best
As a fan of Joe Lozon, I'm biased towards his gym, and then I'm more biased because I'm friends with Steve.
Yeah, I don't think we got anybody from Lozon's gym on this time.
Really?
Because, they had a wedding that night. One of the guys from the gym was getting married.
That's going to be a first.
Guys we asked for, but we didn't get any of them because everybody's in the wedding.
One of my memories of your one of my memories of doing security at your show was, I don't remember who it was that he was fighting, but one of their guys was fighting a gym that they did, and there was something going on between the two gyms.
Yeah.
And you said to me, JP, I need you ringside for this one. And I'm going, Jesus, like, it's Joe Lozon. Like, I'm not,
They're always saying, but just like that was the guy around.
And nothing happened.
Just to show their presence.
Nothing happened, but I'm just, my mind was going nuts through that. I was, if I was ever nervous at one of your shows, it was that moment. And the fans, for the record, what if anything had happened, it would have been inside of the ring.
Yeah.
So the fans still would have been safe, and we would have made sure of that. So
you get bad blood between guys. It's funny. Some guys just don't like each other, and then you put the fact that you think about when you were a kid in grade school and you had to fight something. How nerve-wracking that is, and these guys have the weight on top of them. And I'd like to think about 2 months. You're gonna fight this guy in 2 months. You got 8 weeks to prepare for him, and all you can do is think about him every day. What happens if I lose? What happens if I win? And am I going to get hurt? Am I not going to get hurt? Am I going to hurt him? All the stuff that they got to go through, and then they cut weight on top of it. So they get a little testy at the weigh-ins. There's a lot of bad blood there with a lot of guys, and then some guys don't care. Some guys take it in stride. They just don't care whether they don't need anger to want to fight the other guy. Some guys have to be angry. They have to feel like they're going in, with the chip on their shoulder. And some guys are like, no, they're high-fiving each other. Cowboys Ronnie and Joey Lozon, the perfect example.
Yeah.
They were literally hugging each other at the weigh-in,
Yeah.
Said,
that was so...
They said to each other, this is kind of, we're going to come out here and put on Fight of the Night, get the Fight of the Night bonus.
Right. They said we're going to show up the young kids. And that's why those two are so great together, because they got, like, good personality with them, too, It's not just a fight. And, like... Cowboy will fight, and Cowboy's always had that, like, I'll fight every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
Which, in my mind, tarnished him a little bit, but,
He's just had so many tough fights. He's had just so many wars.
What's funny on this show coming up is I share, I've been sharing your posts, obviously.
I appreciate it.
And a kid that I have not seen since 8th grade, 35 years, Joe, messaged me and said, I don't know who his buddy is, but said one of his buddies on the card, and he's going to be there,
awesome.
too. So I haven't seen this kid in 35 years, and we're going to meet up at your show.
Oh, that'll be great.
It's pretty cool. You want a funny...
The tough part for us is getting the word out, right? It's just how do you get the word out? How do you there's enough fans in Boston that we could sell at the Boston Garden if we went there. We could just let everybody know, but it's so expensive to get the word out. And,
right, and that's
this next week we'll be doing Facebook ads and Instagram ads and all that stuff, and spending $1,000 a day to make sure we get the place full.
Yeah.
And it adds up pretty quick. It adds up pretty quick, but I think that's the way it is now. That's the medium that you have to go to let everybody know. It's not like it used to be.
I know.
Newspaper stories. Trying to get a story in the newspaper now with the Celtics playing and the Red Sox.
Right.
Do people still read the newspaper?
Boston's a very, very competitive market for sports news.
Yeah.
And, it's too bad because it's such a big deal with the UFC being involved in our partnership. It should be all over the, and then the talents that we have, the caliber of guys that can be fighting at this event.
Right.
They should be getting a ton of press on it, but it's just tough because, you compete with the Celtics.
Right.
You compete with the Red Sox. The Bruins were just, they were just, tough to compete with that stuff.
Right, as far as press goes, but that's it. Joe, I know you, and I know your grind, and I know what you're going to do to get it done, and I know you're going to do it. And the show is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
I'm pumped. There'll be a couple times a year, and I'll message you, and I'll be like, Joe, when are we doing this again? When are we doing this again? And you've been itching. I know for a fact you've been itching for years because we've had that conversation.
I said it 10 times. I'm like, we're coming back. We're doing an event. I'm coming back. We're doing an event. We were all set to do it we had a show scheduled for June, the year of the pandemic, and in March they shut us down, and that was it. And I was like, damn, we came that close because we kept threatening to do it. I mean, Rick would literally start putting a fight card together, and then something would happen, and I'd be like, I don't know if we can do it for this date. And, that's another tough part, right? Getting the boxing commission to agree to a date and getting the venue to agree to a date is tough. It's really tough.
Right.
And then you add in the UFC Fight Pass. Now it's,
and whatever else.
We're going to actually sit with them over the next couple of weeks and figure out next year's schedule and what exactly we're going to do with what dates.
I remember when you want a funny story on when another group of special guests you had in was the Tap Out guys, Mask, Punk Ass, and Skyscraper. So they come in, and I was checking the tickets in the section they were going down to, and Punk Ass came up first. And I said, they were filming, they had, their full camera crew with them. And I just looked, I said, you want me to check your tickets? And he said, yeah, please. So I check all their tickets, and I had Punk Ass laughing because I looked at Skyscraper, and I'm a tall guy, I'm 6'8",
Yeah.
and Skyscraper I'm 6'8".
Wow. I didn't realize you were that tall.
Yeah, and Skyscraper is not that tall, but he's still tall.
Yeah.
And I looked at Punk Ass, I said, he's not that tall. And Punk Ass was just laughing as he walked past me to his seat.
That's funny. Yeah, they were really good guys.
Yeah.
They were just super, super nice guys. I'm still friendly with Dan. I obviously have friends with Tim, but I just I haven't seen him talk to him, bro. But I still talk to Dan every once in a while. I miss Charles.
Yeah, that was such a tragedy.
He was a character.
Such a tragedy. And way too young, man.
Just at the start of everything until they just blew up.
Yeah, I mean, they were going to be huge.
Yeah. Well, they made it. I mean, they made it. They started selling T-shirts out on the back of their car, and they made it as far as they did.
That's right.
Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars they sold the company for.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And literally sold T-shirts out of the back of their car and would give T-shirts to the fighters to be a sponsor.
Yes.
And they never gave up. They just never gave up, and it became, a huge thing. They had their own TV show. They had the, Punk Ass is still, Dan is still doing, phenomenally well with all his brands. He's got that Lions Not Sheep, I think they call it.
Okay.
That's his new brand. He's involved in everything. He's always, no matter when I talk to him, he's always got something going on.
I didn't realize that was him. I've seen that.
Yeah, he's a serial entrepreneur.
No. Joe, I want to make sure, because we got about 10 minutes left, I want to make sure that everyone knows where they can find you, where they can find out about the card and the event and, how to go or how to watch.
Okay, cool. So you can go to Fight Pass, UFCFightPass.com to sign up and watch the fight live. It starts at 9 on Friday, June 17th. And if you want to come to the event live, it's CombatFC.tv. CombatFC.tv. And tickets are available there. And the tickets run from $55 for general admission seats all the way to $250 for cage side seats, which are inside the barrier.
That's insane, though.
Yeah,
those
are
to be that close, guys. I mean, I can't tell you that you feel the adrenaline rush being that close.
Yeah, you feel the adrenaline rush everywhere. But the thing with being that close is you get blood spit out of you.
That blood, sweat, and tears, probably.
A great picture of a they write down the ring card, they print off all the fights, and they have in a thing it says World Championship Fighting, and then it's the fight order and all that stuff, and they put it at every station around the when we used to do it in the ring, we used to put it on every station, so everybody would have a list of what was going on. And there's a great picture. One of the photographers took it, and it's just a blood splattered list. The bout, and it just had all blood droplets on it. I thought it was a pretty cool picture.
Sit that close, you might get a tooth in your drink.
Yeah, you never know.
It's such
you never know.
It's such a fun. Every time I go, I've bumped into somebody So when I worked in IT, I worked for a major company in IT, and I show up and I had a conference call that morning, and one of the bosses from the conference call was Larry Kerrigan, who was fighting on your card that night.
Oh, that's the best.
And I had no idea.
Larry's a good guy. Larry actually fought for us.
He did what?
He fought for us.
Oh, yeah.
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 The guy, I think he was 40 or 41 years old when he fought. He
Yeah.
called me up and he said, "Hey, I want to fight." I'm like, "What do you mean you want to fight?" He's like, "I want to fight. I want to test myself."
He
There's
did
a
it.
couple of guys that have done that have rolled. A guy named Mike Curtis fought one time. He owns a big cement company.
Okay.
And I think he's a Wilmington. But he called me up and he said, "I want to fight." I said, "Okay, we'll find somebody, you can rematch for you." And he said, "Yes, I don't want an easy fight." He goes, "I want to test myself. I'm only going to do this once." And that's the same thing Larry said. Don't give me an easy fight. Don't look for a bum.
Well, listen.
It's the only time I'm going to do it. I want to test myself.
I was going to tell you if you had any super heavies back out, I was in, but I tore my meniscus, so I can't do it.
Yeah, with the bad knees.
Unfortunately.
I get a bad everything, so I'm out.
If I can fix the next card of my meniscus is fixed. If you have someone back out, I'm in.
Okay.
I'll last about.
We'll hold you to it.
I'll last about half a second.
Yeah.
And they won't beat me. I'll be winded. I don't have the cardio.
You'll trip getting in the ring.
For a minute, but you try to do it for 2 minutes.
Yeah, no, not at all. Because it's a whole different, I can walk to the ring. I can probably jog or trot slowly to the ring.
Yeah.
But once you get in the ring,
it's a whole different.
It's different.
Whole different style of breathing.
When you get in there for the first time, it's got to be.
No.
It's got to be horrifying. You're in there and you we had a guy, Joe Cushman used to fight for us, and he had diabetes, and he told me, he said, I'm either off or I'm on. He goes, it's tough because I cut weight. He goes, and, I just pray that I don't have a bad night. He goes, it's, I guess the feeling that you get is like being really hungover. If you,
okay.
If you have diabetes and your blood sugar's not right now, I don't know that for a fact, but that's the way he described it to me. And he came out and he fought that one night for us. I think he fought for us a couple of times. One night he just came out. He goes, he lost the fight. He came up to me afterwards and he goes, that was it. He goes, the diabetes got me. He goes, I felt it before I got in the ring.
Yeah, you get very lethargic with it.
And, I'm not going to back out. He goes, but that was it.
I had mentioned earlier that I think two things changed over the past 10 years in the fight game, and one was the females. I want to get your quick opinion on this other one that I think way more recently has sort of changed the fight game, and it's Logan and Jake Paul.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Right? And so you talk about how the announcers can make a fight interesting or not. Those two guys they're not fighters. They're professional boxers at this point, and they are. You can't deny them of that.
Yep.
But it's the story they tell going in.
Yeah, they're not world-class fighters, but they're both fighters. They both get in there and fight, and they do. I was very surprised that they're as good as they are.
Man.
I have nothing against them. I think if you can sell the fight, you can make it interesting. I watch them. I tell you what, every time they fight, I watch them.
Yeah, me too. I've bet against them a few times. I thought for a second that what they were trying to do, and I don't know that I was wrong, but I was told it wouldn't happen. But I thought what they were trying to do for a second was to actually bait Dana White into it.
Yeah.
To bait him into another Tito Ortiz type of thing.
Oh, no, Dana's done.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's
2 years. He might even
but
be 53.
I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
At one, because they were throwing accusations out there, and he was firing back and answering them right back. But I thought that was what they were going for at that point, was trying to get him into a fight.
I'm glad that he doesn't get involved in that stuff. He's slowed down. You poke him, he pokes your back. It's
yeah.
It escalates pretty quickly with Dana. He doesn't take a lot of shit from anybody.
No.
And, I hate to see. That's the one thing that I don't like about them is that he's talking about the fighter pay and all this stuff. He doesn't know the first thing about fighter pay and what it's like to come up through, not making money and fight your way up. And
yeah, I mean,
he's been blessed that he's got the platform that he has.
Exactly.
Even on his cards, they talk about fighter pay and stuff. If you look at what the guys at the bottom of one of his cards are making, you'd be horrified.
Oh, I'm sure.
You'd literally be horrified.
But I love the little side bets that they make with them.
Yeah. Hey, they're interesting. They're fun to listen to. They're fun guys. They can fight a little bit. I mean, I got nothing against them. I enjoy watching all fights. That's the thing is,
right.
And I'd pay to watch two nuns fight if it was a legitimately evenly matched fight. I'd pay to watch two nuns fight.
Do you know what the buy rate on that would be?
They're huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and I'm the same way. Like, I'm more of a. I know a lot of guys are more boxing than MMA. I'm more MMA than boxing because I was sort of new school.
Yep.
And I know guys like Charlie Flaherty will yell at me for that and tell me boxing's better, but
Well, I came up through boxing.
MMA is where it's at.
Yeah, I still love boxing, but the problem with boxing is, we talked about this recently, the problem with boxing is the younger generation doesn't have the concentration skills to watch a 12-round boxing match.
Right.
You know, the problem with it is you'll have to watch 10 fights to see one really good one. And you have to watch 12 rounds of those fights.
Yeah.
Where in the UFC, the worst case scenario, if you get a fight that's a snoozer, the worst possible case scenario could be 15 minutes. You know, it's only 3 5-minute rounds. And then most of the time, you know, you see real quick action where guys are getting in and out of there, and they're winning fights dramatically in a very, very short time. And the kids can keep their attention for that long, but they can't keep it for much more than that.
Right.
And I think we're all getting spoiled because we're used to that instant gratification, you know, seeing somebody get knocked out, seeing somebody get submitted, seeing somebody, you know, where in boxing, you know, a lot of the times it goes 12 rounds, and it's very close, and you really have to be paying attention. It's not like you can, you know, if it's a competitive fight, you really have to be thinking about what's going on for all that time. And scoring the fight, you know, it's different. I still love it. I mean, I have a passion for boxing. I always have. I love kickboxing. I think, you know, that Glory kickboxing is incredible. You know, who's doing a show that does, if you guys like Thai boxing, is Lion Fights is coming to Boston in July.
My buddy, I tried to get one of my buddies to fight for you, and he switched off from MMA to the Thai fighting, and he fights for Lions. Well, he was fighting for Lions Fight. He had a kid, and I think he stopped.
Organization. They really, really high level Thai boxing.
They used to run Foxwoods.
You know, they do international fights. They fly guys in from everywhere.
Yeah.
They've done really successful. But like I said, they got a show coming up in July. I'm looking forward to going myself.
That's awesome.
I think they're at the House of Blues.
Yeah, I know they did some. They've done there before.
Yep.
And I know I've gone to Foxwoods for them a couple of times.
Oh, cool.
To see my buddy.
That's a great venue too.
My buddy Jarrell. Like, this kid was, like, if you had seen this kid Jarrell fight, he fought, he did a couple MMA shows in Plymouth, and pure talent, like pure strength, and good. He just needed a little more time training, and like he wanted to fight. He didn't want to train, and he was training,
it's
but
tough to learn all that stuff. If you haven't grown up with it,
yeah, he didn't want to wait until he was ready.
You get a wrestling base and jiu-jitsu base, and you know that's what everybody's teaching now. And so the young guys, that's what they have. But it's tough to start out as a Thai boxer and then try to make the transition to MMA because the jiu-jitsu is just such a foreign thing. And then the wrestling, you know, it's a completely different game, you know.
Joe, we're just at an hour now, man. I want to tell people to make sure they check you out at CombatFC. Sign up for the UFC Fight Pass. Let UFC Fight Pass know you're there to watch CombatFC by watching CombatFC on there. If you guys are... You know, I know we had a lot of people that are over the pond and over in Ireland and stuff like that listen to us.
They're all fight fans.
Yeah. So, UFC Fight Pass. And for the people that are in the New England area, and I know a lot of you guys are listening to me, like, come up and say hi to me at the Shriners, because I'll be there.
I think I'll be there as well.
I am so looking forward to this.
I'm really looking forward to it. If they need tickets, it's CombatFC.tv.
There you go.
The social media pages at CombatFC.tv also.
What I will tell you guys is do not wait, because Joe does not typically have tickets available at the door when he runs shows.
Yep.
But, you know, that being said, if it's the day of, I would check the website, and if there's tickets, I would be there.
Yeah, sometimes they get re-released. You know what happens is the fighters sell tickets, and
so,
if they don't sell all the tickets that they have, we really re-release those the day of.
So it's definitely worth checking out, and but get your tickets in advance. Be prepared. and it'll be a great night of
Guys, it's
fights.
good to catch up with you.
Yeah, Joe, definitely, man. I'm looking forward to this.
Been a good night.
Take it easy, guys. Thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
bye.
guys, have a good night.
See you next Tuesday.